Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Coaching Youth Hoops Podcast.
They're playing basketball.
Here's our hosts, Steve Collins, and Bill Flitter.
Coaches, welcome to another episode of Coaching Youth Hoops. I am your coach and host, Bill Flitter. Today we have a familiar face, Dr. David. He's back for another episode. Today we're going to be talking about conflict resolution. Before Dave jumps in, I just want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Game Changer. Coaches, go check out Game Changer at gc.com/coaching youth hoops. It's the one tool that I use for all my youth teams and clubs to help me manage the team, manage the video, gain stats, and a whole lot more. Again, gc.com/coaching youth hoops. On to the show. David, how are you? Welcome back. I think we discussed this is your fifth time. You are officially our longest term guest on the show. Welcome.
Well, it's great to see you again, Bill, and glad to be back.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And I think this, you always discuss a much needed topic that's maybe not always X's and O's. And it's something that coaches always run into, which is conflict resolution and dealing with conflicts and how to solve those conflicts, right? Either with parents, maybe even with other assistant coaches, players, maybe even referees. I guess we didn't discuss that one, right? So there's lots of conflict when you're coaching. So oh, and congrats! I'll do a shout out. You're now officially an author. Congrats on that, Rick.
Yeah. Had a recent chapter come out. You can find that on my website, successence.net. But I'm on the cover with Tony Robbins. So it was kind of a nice opportunity to write a short chapter on how to use our biology for us instead of against us, a concept I call neural leverage. So it's a short read, and I'm getting approved by the FDA as a non-drug cure for insomnia. So it'll put you to sleep in 15 minutes.
I'm sure it's more exciting than that. I'm looking forward to getting my copy.
Great.
Well, let's talk about conflict resolution. I'm gonna just let you talk. You guide us on this journey, and I'll just jump in with questions. I got a ton of them, I think. So,
yeah. Well, conflict resolution, it's a topic that a lot of coaches don't want to deal with because we just want everything to run smoothly. But if there's two or more people, there's going to be some conflict at some point. It's just a matter of how intense it is. So, I always tell, my little kids that, what's this notion of conflict resolution? It's really about being kind to each other, even when someone
Hmm.
else gets you mad.
Yeah.
Um, and starting there, and in any sports environments, hopefully our athletes are experiencing some emotions, but they should channel those in a positive way. And conflict comes about when they're not channeled appropriately, and things get out of hand.
Yeah, well, and what came to mind when you first mentioned that too was uh player to player conflict. So that's probably the one we kind of dive into that one where yeah, I can't tell you how many times, this player X on the other team is doing, Y to me, or they're pushing me, or they're scratching me, or they're just a bully on the court. Uh, that one is a little bit harder to deal with because one, you don't know them and you're playing against them for 40 minutes and it's the heat of the battle and you're even the youngest ones, right, they're either gonna, you know, get in their kind of their face, they're gonna go off and cry about it or get upset and cry, or, they're gonna come to you and your best way to handle that conflict maybe is talking to the ref, at least to to start that process. As of course, as things escalate, then you can take that further. But uh, what tools would you give players in that particular case if it's a, again, player on the other team, they're just being they're not being nice, let's just put it that way, right?
Yeah, it's a common scenario. So, it's a multi-pronged approach. So the first
Hmm.
thing I would say is always take the high road. If someone is talking smack to you or bullying
Hmm.
you, it means that you're probably getting in their head. So don't stoop to their level and kind of waste your energy, waste your brain power on going down that hole because that's a competitive advantage in some respects. If their
Hmm.
focus is on you and not necessarily executing the game, to me that's an advantage. So how do we take it? How do we exploit that and take advantage of it? So we do that by keeping our calm, keeping our cool, and showing up for our teammates. So to me, it's a frame of reference. Am I focused on that person or am I focused on myself and my team and what we're doing right? Now, that's hard for adults to do. So to have kids do that's a little more difficult. So there's
Yeah.
simpler approaches. The simple approach is all right, just take a deep breath. I used to crack jokes all the time. That would really
Mhm.
fluster people. So they go negative. I try to go funny or positive. So there's little things you can do like that. And then if things continue to escalate, then if things get physical, obviously you hope the ref would step in. But you and I
Yeah.
both know they're not always Johnny on the spot to do that. And then I tell coaches sometimes use a timeout if you see a child getting frustrated.
Hmm.
Um, So I know as a referee, I have stopped the game, even if for the little fifth graders, if a kid was losing and using it as a coachable moment.
Hmm.
I had one young lady throw a ball at her own teammate because play wasn't run. So I just stopped it there. A good coach points and had her escorted off to her parents and let her calm down for about 10 minutes and she made it back. So those are just some simple tools.
Not that
Um,
any of us ever thought about doing that too.
no, no. But how can you
Yeah.
as a young athlete always be kind even if other people aren't? And I always tell them that, you're a better person, you're a better athlete if you ignore it because you're focusing on the game, you're focusing on building great team cohesion, and then you're role modeling how everybody else should act.
Well, and I'm going to take that a step further too, because one of the things that as a coach, and I have definitely have done this, and I'm replaying all of these scenarios in my head as you're talking of potential problems that didn't escalate from a player to player standpoint. And we we've created this culture with my club team that it's about next play. We always say next play. You've heard me talk about red dot and all of that before, and we put a red dot on our between our finger or between our pointer finger and our thumb, and I always yell out next play, next play. Either that's a mistake response, or if I see a situation where it's escalating. And I'm so happy to hear, because I always think, am I handling the situation right? When they come off the court and I see that, they tell me, oh, this person is really irritating me. And I just say, well, that means, basically you're in their head and they're just trying to get you to bug you. And they've gotten to the point, especially my older girls teams, is they now just laugh at it. They
Yeah.
just like, oh, can you believe it? She's doing this, and it's like, and it's like, now I know I got her. That type of language when they come off the court. Um, but you're absolutely right. It's hard. Kids don't understand, right? So we have to be there to help them with some of these tools that you've mentioned. Let's talk about the situation where it's coach to coach. So coach, the opposing coach, right? They're doing something, they're you know they're not playing by your rule book, so to speak, and what you would do, right, in a game situation. And you're looking at them down, down the side, and you're giving them eye rolls. You might be saying stuff out loud. Now you're not confronting them at that point, but you have to deal with, you got to stop yourself and deal with that. But anyway, I just kind of want to hear your thoughts on that particular situation.
Yeah, for coach to coach, it's really about a couple key thoughts. How do I model conflict resolution?
Hmm.
So, I should lead by example for my athletes. So if I'm taking the bait from an opposing coach or someone in the stands, what does that say to them? That gives them permission to do it as well. So setting that positive tone and being the role model is key, which ties into my second point. The way to diffuse conflict resolution is one of the foundational elements is to create a safe environment for your team. So you gave the example of them turning it into yeah, we kind of laugh at it. I remember a team, they said, oh, this would be great in a Saturday Night Live skit if they were doing this. And then
Yeah,
it turned them kind of into clowns and it diffuses their emotions a little bit when we can deflect on, oh, they're the silly ones. And that safe environment then uh, uh, um, gives us this moment where, all right, I know we get fired up at times, but we have the habit, we have the culture where we have this environment where, yeah, we can feel frustrated, but we can approach it just in our team huddle.
that's right.
We can
Yeah.
approach it in a way where, I may be at my worst, but I feel comfortable expressing that, perhaps in the halftime locker room, but not on the court. And I'm not going to get fear of retaliation from others. So coaches are really there. And then also, as coaches, the third point I'll make is that we're supposed to be teaching communication skills. When those moments start coming up and things might potentially get chippy, I want to turn my focus on my team and demonstrate good communication skills where I can block out noise. Because if I expect them to have this next play attitude and be in the moment, I have to model the way in terms of how I communicate. So that's where I may double down
Hmm.
on calming my athletes down or next play attitude or does everybody got to play, talk to each other. So
Yeah.
those are just a few initial thoughts.
So I'm not perfect, but so I we have this kind of joke on the team too about, if the kids, and certain kids do it better than others, uh, but they'll actually, if they see me getting a little hot, if you will,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting down, they'll either, if I'm standing up, it's really interesting because I just think it's so cool. They'll just come up and say something to me. They'll say next play, right? And hey, coach, remember next play. And I just think that is so cool. Or they'll actually put their hand on my leg if I'm sitting down, on my knee, and just say,
Oh,
coach, next play.
yeah.
And it's always done in such a way that it's like, okay, they're absolutely right. It's
Yeah.
it's next play. Just calm down. You can't, that situation is not in your control. So, just next play. And that comes from, again, establishing that culture and having that as a framework, because it's competition, so it is going to get a little angsty once in a while.
So what,
Let's
what I,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, what I love about that on a couple levels is the culture that's set,
Hmm.
and everybody's reinforcing positive behavior. So just those
That's
little
right.
gestures are important, and that's that culture. And the athletes, showing off their ability to implement a simple conflict resolution strategy. So how do we quickly de-escalate those emotions? How do I get it from
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 back down to perhaps a manageable 4 or 5? And it's the simple things. It's not rocket science. So, just a pat on
Yeah.
the shoulder or take a deep breath. Those things can defuse our emotions and get them at the optimal level quickly.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I would think also player support, again, going back to if you see one of your players, and it can happen at the younger level too. It doesn't, one of your players getting a little heated, we should teach them how to walk over and say, again, we always say next play, right? But whatever that trigger is for you to say, okay, let's just move on from the situation.
Yeah. And then as coaches, you have to get creative as well. So, a few times
Mhm.
I've said, don't forget your mom's in the third row of the stands.
But she's the one yelling at me, coach.
Oh,
It's a
man.
great segue, right? Or yelling
That's
at
a
the other
different
Mm-hmm.
parents.
strategy,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah,
So have a variety of ways to calm and de-escalate people in their eye on the prize.
yeah.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.